When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I haver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's havering to you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. But I'm working, 'cause I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, oh, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home to you. And if I go, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's going over you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be a man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm lonely, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's lonely without you. And when I'm dreaming, well, I know I'm gonna dream about the time when I'm with you. When I go out, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. And when I come home, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home with you. I'm gonna be the man who's coming home with you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 1,000 miles to fall down at your door.
Vâng, đơn giản chắc ví dụ có công nghệ là quay được anh kể trong tổng kho từ và
Very hard, and 100 lonely housewives like checking milk boat to their heart. It's nice again, it's the wanna cut down here, all it gives me again. It's a big decision and a time for my hands. Ooh, yeah. First on the swing track, it goes down my track. Set them on the back of nowhere, just around and round. Oh, when I get to swing, it swings. What's wrong in the breeze? Going around and going real well. You know what you're doing back in this town. This is the moment that Huddersfield Town fans have been dreaming of for years and years. There's a team that's dear to its followers. They play in the bright, the blue and the white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride in this town. Come on, smile a while. Come on, smile a while. Come on, smile a while. Smile. So all the while upon the field of play, thousands back and cheer them on their way. But often you will hear them say, no one's gonna beat the town today. Come on, smile a while. Come on, smile a while. House party. Come on, smile a while. Smile. And the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal will be a memory. So town, play up and win the cup. Bring it on to Huddersfield. Huddersfield Town. Smile a while. Come on, smile a while. Come on, smile a while. Smile. Smile a while. Come on, smile a while. Come on, smile a while. Smile. Game of football is their delight. In the game of football is their delight. The game of football is their delight. And the game of football is their delight. We all know her desire from the plans that she has made. Immerse me in your splendor, all the plans that I have made. This is the one, this is the one she's waiting for. This is the one she's waiting for.
Matt, welcome to Brighouse TV.
Thank you very much.
Are you managing at home? Is you and the family okay?
Yeah, well, family are great. My youngest isn't at school, so she's extremely happy. Can't go meet her friends, so she's not delighted about that. And yeah, we're just getting on. It's quite tough from, I have a lot of commitments with me hair salon, beauty, with me Monday night football show on the BBC, and also the games, plus my academy as well. So everything's on hold at the minute. As you can see behind me, little vegetable patch like everyone else there. See, growing plants, herbs. Yeah, so I'm really bored now, and I'm growing things, I'm cutting things, and washing things. I like me cooking anyway. I'm enjoying a couple of glasses of the good stuff, and yeah, it's not easy. Obviously, everyone will know the government put hairdressing back to the 4th of July at the earliest, so that was a bit of a kick in the old ghoulies yesterday as well. So it's tough, but I've not got as bad as some people. So you've got to count your blessings.
Excellent. I'm going to say, in terms of your barber shop, like they said it's going to close till 4th of July. How's that impacted you quite financially?
Obviously, it's not great. The government, I must admit, have stepped up. You know what I mean? There's certain things they put in place with furloughing staff and that. Unfortunately, I can't do that to myself. It's not great. It's obviously, football's wiped out. Everything's wiped out, and it's basically now we're just trying to find ways of, when we come back, to make things as safe as possible, because it's not just the barbers, it's hair, it's beauty, it's ladies as well. It's like a big unit we've got. So we've got a lot to think about, a lot to do, but it's keeping us busy. It's been a strange old day today, speaking to a few people with the hairdressing, then I've been talking football, the BBC, and speaking to yourselves. It's been a quite a positive day today, to be fair, and there's not been many of them since we shut.
Yeah, excellent. So now delve into a bit about your footballing career. So you started out at Bolton, who at the time was managed by Ian Holloway, who we all know has a few different kind of managerial styles. What was his style back then? Because I'm sure back in his younger day he'd been maybe a bit more active.
No, it was at Bristol that I was with Ian Holloway, Bristol Rovers. So it made me league debut for Ian Holloway. And yeah, he was a character. It was, 20, something like that. So 20 odd years ago. Don't like to say that number. So no, I had him for a couple of weeks. He tried to sign me. I said no, because I'd gone to Bristol, played against Wigan, got a 0-0 draw, got man of the match in my league debut, fantastic. And then didn't play the next game. I was like, what the hell's going on here? How can this be right? But they had a lad on loan from Man United who had to play when fit. So I went back to Bolton, and I started off with Roy McFarland and Colin Todd, which is an old name which people will know. And then obviously Big Sam came in after Phil Brandon a little bit. But Ian Holloway is obviously a character who's been in football, he's been a character a long way. But Sam Allardyce was excellent, and we had a couple of fallouts, especially because Bristol offered a few quid for me, and I said no. I said I'll go there. I was on loan at Carlisle at the time as well, and enjoyed my football. And yeah, it was a bit like now. It was a crazy time, to be fair. It was a crazy time.
Yeah, I know quite a few Carlisle fans who have joined the live tonight, because I know you made quite a lot of appearances for the club, and they're quite considered you a club legend up there, I've been told. What's it like up at Carlisle?
Brilliant. It's a beautiful place to live. It's a great place to play your football. The fans are very passionate. I was lucky enough to see two sides of Carlisle United. I was there on loan when Michael Knighton was the chairman, and he was trying to run the club into the ground, which was a disgrace. And then I came back when John Courtney took over about 18 months later. I'd been sold to Hull City. Didn't work out too well then. Came back to Carlisle, Roddy Collins, a mad Irishman. And it's just brilliant. I lived in a little village called Cunwitton. We had the Pheasant pub there, which was an amazing little place. My daughter was born up there as well, my first daughter. And yeah, we had too many scrapes for relegation, but we also had a cup final at Millennium. And yeah, I had some fantastic times at Carlisle. And they've been doing quite a lot on Radio Cumbria lately, BBC Radio Cumbria, little snippets of games from a long time ago. And I must admit, I've had a tear in my eye a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, remembering some of the really, really great times.
Yeah, and then from there, you kind of had a bit of experience in Scotland, up at Falkirk and St Johnstone. What did you see were like the major differences in Scottish football compared to like the Football League?
Well, so I've said it a few times. When I went up to Scotland, it was 2004, 5, I think it was, or 5, 6. 5, 6, I think it was, yeah. And it was before the big financial crash, before all the clubs, had the backside ripped out of them. And like Hearts and Hibs and that were still getting 18, 19,000 fans. Obviously, had your Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, were a force as well. It was still your big two before everyone found out Rangers weren't paying the tax bill. You know what I mean? It was before then, so there was a big rivalry still. But it was brilliant. It was great to experience those massive stadiums, play against some quality players, and it was a decent standard. In the lower half of it, tried to play a little bit too much. Didn't always get away with it against the big boys, a bit like the English Premier League. But for a year, it was just a great experience, and for a year was enough because it was freezing. It was too cold. You know what I mean? You can tell by my face. You know what I mean? I'm a bit soft. So it was too cold, too wet, too windy, and also you didn't get paid enough either. So it was time to come back down.
Yeah, and you came back down. That's when you started to make your appearances for Huddersfield Town, and you kind of experienced the pre and post Dean Hoyle kind of saga. What was it like a player at the time, seeing those changes higher up?
It was great. Peter Jackson, what a great fella. He signed me. I just got married as well. Just got married over near Hull there, Cave Castle, and we'd come out from our honeymoon, met up with Jacko, got me contracts. Well, me agent did the contracts. We had some chats, and it was brilliant. You know what I mean? The training ground wasn't great. The pitches were decent, but the actual facilities, you know what I mean, it's a million miles away from where it is now. But the stadium was fantastic. You got a great pitch. You know what I mean? You got loads of fans turning up, and it was just unfortunate at that time there wasn't much money available. Because obviously Ken Davey took over there. The club was, you know, he did well to keep the club going, but he was never going to do what Dean was going to do, which was, you know, be a real supporter of the club and put as much money as he possibly could in. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Went on some decent cup runs, you know what I mean, had some decent games, and just unfortunately, I just missed out when the club really started to stride forward.
Yeah, I want to take you back to a game back in December 2007 down at Southend, in which Alex Smithers, who was 17 at the time, had to come on in place of you. Could you see around that time that it was going to be the player that he has become now, saving that penalty in the League One playoff final and going on to make appearances for Town and QPR and Cardiff?
Yeah, he was decent. You know, I mean, he was only young at the time. Obviously, I got sent off in the second half. He had to come on and play. I think it was the second half, might have been the first, I can't remember. I got sent off after playing, I think, 78 games in a row. So I was fuming anyway because the lad dived. But Alex came on and played against Leeds. Didn't particularly go well, but you could tell, yeah, he had everything. He was a decent size, not the tallest, but a decent size. Athletic, struck a ball well, and he was confident. He had the arrogance that goalkeepers need to have. Let's put it that way. We don't take much shite off people, and Alex was definitely in that bracket along with me.
Excellent. And what were your favourite memories at Huddersfield, would you say?
Say working with Jacko, taking me to Ibiza for pre-season training. I had a vest on, eating a mint chocolate chip ice cream on Lilo, and I remember him looking at me and just shaking his head and going, "What the hell is going on here?" So we'd only just really met. Great times, and it was a bit of a battle at Huddersfield, to say, with the finances and not getting enough loan players in. But it was just a great time with a great bunch of players. Obviously, saving 3 penalties in one game, which is up there in the world record with only one or two other keepers. Gary Bailey from Man United, I think that's it. You know what I mean? There was a few clean sheets, met some great lads along the way, some good players who've gone on to have decent careers as well. It just came to a bit of an abrupt end for me, which if anyone's ever seen me interviewed or anything before, they know I'm not particularly happy about it, and still on a little bit on the bitter side, because I enjoyed my time at Town. I didn't want it to come to the end it came to. Yeah,
and then from there you went to Stockport City, who in your time there, unfortunately.
Stockport County. That's my hometown club. You can't be saying that. Bloody hell.
Stockport County, sorry. And in that time, unfortunately, the club got relegated out of the Football League. For people who might not know, go on.
It was very, very similar to when I went to Carlisle the first time. They had a chairman that wasn't interested in taking the club forward, stripping everything out of them, and say I was a ball boy at Stockport County when I was 10, 11 years old. So I'm a Stockport boy, ball boy at Wembley for him, was there on loan in the Championship when I was 18, I think it was. And then to see the demise of the club, and Paul Simpson was manager, and he was an old manager of mine from Carlisle. You know, when he tried his best in his wife, clean, you know, in painting the changing rooms, doing everything to get the club going. We were just starting to get some momentum, and the club decided to make a ridiculous change. And you could see that Paul Simpson would have kept the club in the division, without a doubt. He had a pedigree of doing it at Carlisle, you know what I mean? And he knew what he was doing. And they decided to make a change for an ex-player, which, you say, didn't go well at all. And unfortunately, we got relegated. Well, then we got to meet Didi Hamann the next season, came in as manager. You know what I mean? He was superb. For a World Cup, you know what I mean? Someone playing a World Cup final, European Cup winner, everything, the most down-to-earth man you've ever seen. And if you could find him, if you couldn't find him, you'd look up for the puff of smoke around the back of the changing rooms, and you knew where he was then.
What's it like for a player going through like a relegation? And like, surely it must be disheartening, and trying to rebuild that as well.
I've had it twice in my career, and yeah, it's not good. If you've given a good account of yourself, and you know, it's been a real battle. Carlisle was a real battle. We went down with a fight. We were the best team in the division when Simo took over from, I think, end of November to the end of the season. I think we were second in the form league because we were that far behind. Whereas at Stockport, I just felt we went down with a little bit of a whimper and too many excuses about where the club was and things like that. Too many people making bad decisions. So yeah, that was two very different relegations, two very different, but both similarly very hard to get hold of. You go away in the summer, you might get a break. You go and spend a bit of time with your family, and yeah, you've got to pick yourself up though, and you've got to go again.
Yeah, and then from there, you went to Chester, who at the time were in the Northern Premier League, which at our level, it's kind of a football's your second job, and you have to have another job alongside. What major difference did you see from coming out of full-time football going into that kind of football?
It wasn't really a football decision, it was a personal decision. I had a family, my father-in-law wasn't very well, so he was really struggling. I decided to leave Stockport in the January. A manager had come in, didn't really see eye to eye. There was no point me staying there, especially when I wanted to spend a lot of my time with my father-in-law, unfortunately, before he passed. So I just went to Hull City training with Nick Barmby, and the goalkeeper coach, Gary Walsh, is a good friend of mine. So I just trained there. Decided I was going to just pick up again the season after. But Neil Young at Chester rang me up and said, Matt, will you come and help us out? Goalkeeper's hurt himself. We need someone for a relegation, for a promotion push. I was like, well, I don't really know the division. I've never played that low before. And he says, well, you know what I mean? I said, I can't come train. I'm training at Hull. I'm spending time. And he said, no, just if you can just turn up for games. There's 10 games left. And I thought, you know what? It'll just take my mind off the awful situation in my personal life. And I just went and played some games. It was great. I think we won 9, drew 1. I think 8 clean sheets. And promotion with them. We had the bus around Chester and stuff. And my missus and my girls came with me. And it was a nice distraction from what was going on. So it wasn't really a choice to drop down there footballing wise. It was a personal decision just to keep my mind off what was going on in other parts of my life.
Yeah, and then from there you went to sign for FC Halifax Town. You managed to spend a good 4 seasons with. How much love did you end up falling in love with Halifax?
Well, when I went to Halifax, I'd not enjoyed my back end of Huddersfield Town. I went to Bradford City before I went to Stockport, just for a little bit on loan, and that was awful. Didn't really enjoy it there because Peter Taylor turned up, who is not a goalkeeping lover at all. So it was never going to be great. And then I was a bit out of love of football. Neil Aspin, I spoke to him. I still speak to Neil all the time. I've had him on Monday Night Show a couple of times because he's a great fellow. Went out for a few beers before all this stuff happened with the lockdown. And yeah, gradually I just fell back in love with football again. We got promoted. I remember because all he did was bitch about the fact I'd not had a clean sheet for about 4 games, 5 games. Moan about everything. Moan all the time. They went on to about 25 that season and a clean sheet in the final, obviously, of the playoffs. And the next season, again, fantastic success, got to the playoffs. Season after, still finished 9th, 10th with a weakened squad. I mean, still part-time and a lot of teams were full-time as well in that division. And then, unfortunately, Neil lost his job. And it was time for me as well to say goodbye to that club. When you're in your mid to late 30s, if you're not enjoying somewhere, it's just a grind. And obviously, I'd started off other businesses as well, and it wasn't right just to be there taking money off someone. I might as well just leave and go and do something else.
Yeah, so at that point you ended up leaving and then actually retiring. And then all of a sudden, Steve Kitrick decided to give you a phone call from Scarborough and said, "Can you come help us out?" What was that all about?
He didn't give me a phone call. He turned up in my barber's chair. That's what happened. So he sat in my shop and we're having a little chat. He's a nice fellow, Steve. So he said, "Will you come play a couple of games?" Again, we were just trying to get in the playoffs, cup final. I'd actually played a couple of games for Buxton, Martin McIntosh, as well, who's a friend of mine from Huddersfield Town. And I just did, I wasn't trained, I was just bumming around, just playing a couple of games, just trying to enjoy it. And just the Scarborough thing, again, was just a nice, easy, play a few games. It wasn't financially helpful at all, really. But having to drive all over the place was just a fact of just playing a bit of football. I'm in I'm 37 at this time, and I've been playing professional football for 18, 19 years. Done a bit of part-time, played 600 plus games. It was just trying to enjoy those last little bits before I turned into a crippled old man.
Yeah, and then you had one game over at AFC Emley as well, who are in the Northern Counties East League Division 1. For those people who aren't kind of familiar with that sort of football down in the Northern Counties East League, just give people an insight as to what it's all about.
It was excellent. Darren Hepworth, the manager at the time, also tricked me into playing that game as well. So I was working for the BBC then, doing the football analysing that I do now. And the Leeds Huddersfield game had moved to the Sunday. So he knew damn well that I wasn't doing anything on that Saturday afternoon. His keeper had been suspended. He said, Matt, we can come play a game. And I thought, well, I can't send him away because my salon is next door to Emley's ground and he knows I'm going to be there. And I went, and it was good. And it was a decent standard as well. You know what I mean? They play. You know what I mean? They keep a decent pitch there. You know what I mean? There was a decent crowd on the day. And yeah, it was a lot better standard than I thought it was going to be, to be fair. Some good players down there.
Yeah, excellent. Let's talk a bit now about Huddersfield and the job you do with BBC Radio Leeds. How did that all come about, getting involved with Radio Leeds?
Well, Paul Ogden, my commentating friend, he used to use me quite a lot when I was playing for Town because, as you can tell, I'm not quiet when it comes to talking. I've got quite a lot to say about certain things and don't hold back. He knew that when he used to pull me to one side. He knew, you know what I mean, that I'd be quite forthright with my opinions on things. So he tried me out for a game just as I retired against Birmingham, I think it was, in David Wagner's first season. Then a lad retired that was doing the job. They got me in, and it's been really good. It's been 3 years now. And then they pulled me in to have my own show for the last 16 months, 17 months, Matt's Monday Night Football. And yeah, it's been excellent. Really, really enjoy it. Get to see some of my old mates at different clubs around the country as well that are doing very similar things to me. And you just get to talk about football. You get to analyse things. You get to get really deep with people about things. I mean, a lot of people don't agree with me, which I enjoy even more. So it's a job which I'm hoping just to keep going forward and forward with.
Yeah, excellent. Just give us a bit of insight into that promotion year, being on commentary. I'm sure you were going to some games at the start of the season thinking, we might not get anything there. And then I bet your mindset changed massively towards the back end of the season when we were still up there and still in around that playoff position.
Well, it was crazy for me. I didn't expect anything because obviously I'd only just finished playing. So I'd not spent a lot of time following Huddersfield from before I left because when you leave a club, you're playing for another club and your Saturday afternoons are taken up. So you watch the highlights, you read the bits because I live in the town still. So I didn't really know what to expect. David Wagner had just taken over. He'd only had 20 games or something. It had not gone brilliant the season before. He was trying to implement his style of play, bring his footballers into the club. So he did that in the summer. And then, things started to build. They weren't getting beat. They were picking up points, picking up draws, clean sheets. And next thing you know, they're in the playoff places. Then they're at the top, near the top of the league. You're thinking, bloody hell, we've got to Wembley at some point here. Then, obviously, the Sheffield Wednesday game, when they didn't actually score a goal themselves. Next thing you know, in my first season working for BBC, I'm getting whisked off to bloody Wembley to watch Huddersfield Town try and get promoted to the Premier League, the biggest division, the best division in the world.
Yeah, something that popped up on my YouTube a few days ago was the full 90 of the Huddersfield Town v Chelsea game over at Stamford Bridge. Yeah. I was there that night and it was such a special night. I bet it was quite nervous to do that on commentary, just keep thinking it back in your mind, what if? I
was exhausted. We stayed over after that game. We went for a couple of beers near our hotel near Chelsea's ground afterwards. We're all knackered because it'd been such a, the season was so up and down. It was just an amazing season with highs and lows. Obviously beat Man United, but then getting spanked a couple of times, which you'd expect. And then to get that point, I remember Lossell's save still touched it onto the post. It was absolutely phenomenal. Then obviously Depotre just knocks Willie Caballero to one side and he was the coolest man in the stadium that night. Just taps it in the back of the net. And that we're going mad. Oggie's going mad, losing his voice. And we're thinking, bloody hell, just blow that whistle for God's sake. And then, it's all over. And what a fantastic, phenomenal effort by everyone at the club, from Dean all the way down to Brookie, the kit man, and everyone in between. And it was just, it was a phenomenal first season.
Yeah, so moving on to this season now. Obviously, start of the season wasn't that great, but look, the Cowleys have come in and they've managed to get those people in that they wanted to and those people out that didn't want to be at the club. What do you think they need to get in next season to try and get higher up the table?
Well, they just got to bring the sort of players that they want to implement the kind of football they're going to play. I mean, we're not totally sure what they're going to do yet because they've not had their players. They've had to get rid of some of the biggest players that Huddersfield Town have ever signed. You're talking about £18 million centre half, £10 million wingers, and things like that. That they just had to say, no, not for me. You're on to the side. Brave, fantastic decisions in my book. I thought, it was not easy for two men as well that have come from, Concord Rangers. They've worked their way through. Two teachers. They've had massive success at Lincoln. And next thing, they're telling £40 million worth of talent, sorry lads, we don't want you because we think your attitude stinks. And you know what I mean. And they weren't wrong. And it's just a shame that this has been cut off this season because I think they'd have finished strong, and I think it'd have been a really good feeling going into the next season.
Yeah, definitely. We'll start to go through questions that I've had come through. First one that's come through, someone's asked, if you could change one thing about your career, what would it be?
Probably the early years, a little bit more professional. You know what I mean? We worked hard, you were fit and everything like that. But the fact that I've looked this old since I was about 14 years old meant all the senior professionals, it'd be like, Matt, we're going out for a few beers. It'd be like, no, I'm not. It's like, yeah, you are. And you just got into that mix of there when you're with established stars like John Sheridan and Scott Sellers, and you know what I mean. I'm only a young lad, but we're going out for beers and things that I think maybe a little bit more professional in there with those 19, 20, 21 eras, and maybe just being a little bit fitter than I could be. The ability was there. Sometimes the mind wasn't always there. I did kick on again later on. By the way, my daughter did my nails. You can see that. I keep putting that in the middle of that. What else? Yeah, good. Yeah. So just those couple of years, 19 to 21, I think I could have done things very differently.
Excellent. Another one we've had is says, "Hi Matt, what was the best game you was involved in?"
Well, one of the best games actually was Falkirk versus Dunfermline in the Scottish Premier League. It's a local derby, only 4 miles away. I remember driving up to the ground, wasn't feeling confident, feeling nervous, had a bit of a sweat on, felt a bit sick. Like, these things happen quite a lot anyway. Football, you always got that nervousness when it's big games, big derbies. Oh, any games really. But this one particular was not feeling it at all. It was the full crowd. It was heaving, baying for blood. I'm an Englishman in a fire pit of Scotland as well, so and they want to eat you. And next thing you know, I end up with a 10 out of 10 in the news of the world, and just everything hit me in the face, hit me down there, hit me here. And when I chucked my hand to the side, I did it. I caught every cross. My kicking was on point every single time. That one time, as people probably know, yes, it did happen, and it was a clean sheet, and it was phenomenal. Then you've got Rangers, Celtic in that Scottish period. Carlisle United, it will be the playoff semi-final against Aldershot, saved 3 penalties in the penalty shootout. The crowd, but that was one of the games that I listened to recently. Also in that run, Mansfield Town, again a phenomenal game. People will remember it. Couple of cup finals. The cup final Millennium wasn't massively memorable because it didn't have a lot to do. I mean, there was 50,000 people there, but when you're not really involved in the game very much and you get beat, it's not great. It's not great. Huddersfield Town, Birmingham at home. Birmingham were in the Premier League. We were obviously League One. We beat them 2-1. They had a full team out. We'd had a couple of injuries just before kick-off. Big crowd there that day. Really lively, buzzing FA Cup third round. I loved the FA Cup. And then obviously we went on to play Chelsea, and where Mr. Lampard scored his 100th first goal for Chelsea past me. So which I'm probably still dines out on. So yeah, there's been loads of games. Obviously 600 odd of them, and there's been a lot of great games to remember.
Excellent. Next one I've had through says, who is the best player you've played with, and who's the best player you've played against?
Best player with? I remember playing, so this only just come to me actually, because I've been doing obviously a few bits of these over the years. I played with Leon Osman when I was 22, and he was probably 18, 19. He came on loan to Carlisle. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was superb. And they nearly bought him as well. But then, obviously, went on to a fantastic career with Everton. So it wouldn't have been the greatest move for him. But no, he was excellent. Then you move into Huddersfield Town eras where you've got people like Danny Schofield. I love playing with Andy Booth. I mean, always made a bad kick if I actually did one into a good one. Scored goals. There's been Mark Roberts at Halifax, guy Lee Gregory. You know what I mean? I had a great captain, little Danny Lowe, that people know as well in the non-league circuit. There's been some great lads over the years. Plays against, I've got to say, well, Lampard obviously scoring. People like Shevchenko, Bergkamp, Vieira. There's been a few over the years, and not all of them have scored past me. I can say. So a few of them I did keep out. But say your Bergkamps, your Lampards, your Shevchenkos and Vieiras, people like that. They're pretty special people to play against. And I tell you, actually, when I was up in Scotland, a fella called Russell Latterby played for Rangers. Little Caribbean footballer. He was phenomenal, and he's another one. Half time, you're like, what? You'd be looking round, wondering where the fire alarm's not going off. He'd be having a fag in the toilets. It was absolutely scary. Footballer played at a really good level, but bloody hell, if he wasn't playing football, he was smoking.
Class. Mohamed Fruis says, who's your most favourite manager you've played for?
Every time I see Peter Jackson, he says I have to say Peter Jackson. But I've had a few that I've enjoyed working under. Sam Allardyce, didn't get a lot of first team action with him. Ended up selling me, and we had a few run-ins, but I always enjoyed his work. And then I did Peter Jackson, Neil Aspin, Halifax. Me and Neil are still good friends now. I had some decent times with Paul Simpson at Carlisle. God, I forget anyone that's going to watch it. That's about it, really, to be fair. There's been 3 or 4 I really enjoyed, but there's been 3 or 4, you know what I mean, that, I wouldn't throw water on if they were on fire.
Another one says, what advice would you give to a young 18-year-old goalkeeper who's attempting to get into semi-professional football?
Just keep working hard. Keep eating properly, keep strong, keep doing the right things. You know what I mean? Make sure you're doing your plyometrics, your kicking. Don't just think that it's all about saving the shots, because it's not. We know now. A lot of it's about your feet. Your feet will always get you out of trouble. You know what I mean? You've got to stay strong. And when you have these nightmare outfield players turn around to try and give you a bit, you give it back. You stay strong. You stay confident. And that's it, really. Believe in what you're doing, because if you don't, there's no point being a goalkeeper, because you'll last 5 minutes.
Yeah. So in terms of football nowadays, obviously there's a lot of speculation going on about the AFL and Premier League, about what should they do in terms of the finish. Should it be null and void? Should they just take Leeds and West Brom up and just have a 22-man Premier League season? What's your thoughts on what should happen?
No, I don't think that should happen. I think the Premier League, because of money, will get finished at some point. There's no rush to do it. They don't finish it till August. What's it matter? Just delay the next season, or you have to play the Premier League has to play a little bit more Saturday, Tuesday. They get rid of that ridiculous mid-season break that, you know what I mean, that suddenly come in, so that disappears. So you've got to play a few extra games. For me, Championship, a lot tougher. I did hear rumours that it would be Leeds, West Brom go up, and then they have a playoff between the other 4, just normal 2-game playoff. That could maybe work. But we know what football's like. It's not full of gracious, honourable people at times. So somebody will get upset. Somebody will make sure it lasts longer than it should do. And really, it's just about people staying safe, and none of us, you know what I mean, no one else adding to the horrible death rate that we've seen.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the points per game kind of argument? I mean, for us, Brighouse last year, we managed to win our playoffs, but due to system restructure, we didn't manage to go up due to a points per game basis. So we've managed to suffer via points per game. But what's your thoughts on it?
I think it's ridiculous when teams win games and don't go up. And also, I've heard that there was too many in the north, not enough in the south, so they didn't go up. And I just think when you play in the league, you need to have promotion, you need to have relegation, you need everything there if you can get it finished. You look at Embley and you look at Shelley Football Club as well. You know what I mean? They were flying. They were miles in front, and they were going to go into the next division. And this went, no, you're done. That's it. So we're done. You can do points per game. That's when points per game maybe can come in. And I think it's not a problem, because I don't think the stats really say that many teams rally at the back end of the season. You get maybe one now and again who'll go on a silly run and get themselves out of trouble. But I think on the whole, I can't see a points per game really being a massive problem if everyone decides that's the way to go. But null and void, when you've only got 6 games to go, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think Shelley had 6 games to go, if maybe 5, because I spoke to Ash, the manager, Ash Berry, a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying we only had a few games to go. You're 10, 11 points clear. It's ridiculous that you don't promote these teams.
Yeah, I think in our league we only had about 8 games left in total in ours as well before they declared it null and void as well. And working to the top of ours, and they had about 12 points clear of ours as well. So
I think, like on a match day, if you get to 75 minutes, if 4 players get sent off, the result stands, or if the weather comes in or the floodlights, you get to a certain amount of time in the game, then that's it. The game counts. So why can you not be 70-75% through a season and then the results stand? Maybe like that. Maybe they need now to bring something in where everyone knows what's going to happen if this happens again.
Yeah. Another question that's come through. It says, how did you actually get into football?
Going to football by just everyone like everyone else. Just a local football manager asking me if I wanted to come down. It was a team called Aswood United, Ladybridge County at the time. It was in Stockport. Ended up playing a little bit of right back, a little bit of this for a couple of games. Went in goal, and yeah, it seemed to go well. It went all right for the first half, because I remember everyone was complaining that they'd been beaten 9-0 by this team twice, and I went in goal. It was only, I think it was 2-2 at half time. We still got beat 9-2 at the end of the game. So it wasn't brilliant, but yeah, it just seemed to have a little knack playing in goal. I don't like running around. I don't like heading the ball. So going in goal was perfect for me. And yeah, he just kept playing and playing. But unlike now, footballers, I played for about 7 teams all the time, 4 or 5 games a week plus training, and just loved it and played and played and played. And say I had quite a long career without injury, so I didn't really get burnt out.
Yeah. Another question. Best stadium you've ever played in?
Best stadium? Well, I would love to have played at Wembley when I got to a cup final, but it was Millennium, which was decent. Hampden Park, I played there, that was beautiful. And obviously Celtic Rangers. Rangers was a nice old-fashioned ground. Chelsea, Stamford Bridge, again, decent. There's been a few. There's been some, nice older grounds as well. I was brought up at Burnden Park. I love Burnden Park. You know what I mean? The atmosphere there was fantastic. Being Huddersfield Town fans, remember Leeds Road when back in the day when they were there. It's not all about the glitz and the glamour. Sometimes you get a feel. Edgeley Park. I love playing at Edgeley Park. In Carlisle United again, when those places are rocking and you've got that place full and the crowd are screaming and shouting. I remember playing Arsenal in the FA Cup third round for Carlisle. There was 19,000 there, and it was absolutely brilliant. Arsenal brought their first team. Carlisle filled the place. It was the first time in God knows how many years, because this was my first stint when Michael Knighton was still owned the club. And yeah, when a stadium's full, you can't beat it.
Excellent. And then I've had another one just come through that says, would you ever contemplate becoming a manager in football?
No. No. I have done for certain minutes in time. I allow myself to daydream and think, would I fancy that? Probably. I've not gone through my badges and stuff, but for me, it's being a footballer, you get paid decent money, don't work loads of hours. Being a manager, and you can't get sacked either when you've got a couple of 2-3 year contracts. When you're a manager, what's your lifespan? 12 months, 14 months, a couple of weeks in some people's things. If you get 2 years out of it, you've done phenomenal. It's not. I don't think it's a life for people unless that's something you really, really want to do, because it's so insecure and through no means yourself. Like Steve Bruce is going to get sacked. We all know he's going to get sacked. You know what I mean? Because they're going to bring Pochettino in, do that. He's done better than Benitez did, but because he's not Spanish, because he's not like Benitez, and because he likes meat and potato pies and full English breakfast. No, he's not the man for the job. And we all know he's going to go, and it won't be anything that he's done wrong, and he'll miss the opportunity to be the Newcastle manager with all the money that's going to come in there. So, answer to that, no, you're all right.
Yeah, Matt, I'm not getting much more through, so I think we'll leave it there. It's been a good 35-40 minutes, so it's gone really well. Thanks for joining us, and all best for your barbershop, and hopefully we can get football back as soon as possible. And everyone on the channel, thanks for joining us.
All right, cheers, buddy. Thank you.